I'm a first-time home buyer. I've been looking for over a year. Should I wait or buy now?
Super tough. You know what? I am not a forecaster. I'm not an economist. So everything I'm going to tell you is more from a personal finance point of view than a expert on the housing market who knows exactly what's going to happen point of view. I would be biding my time. I mean, I look at what's happening in the broader economy, and nothing going on in the broader economy says this is awesome for housing. Housing is going to take off. You know, one of the biggest indicators for how healthy housing can be and how secure people are with their mortgages is unemployment. It's really high right now. It's going to be improving drastically as more people go back to work, but it's not going to go back in a snap to where we were prior to the pandemic. And I think that is not a great foundation for housing. So if I was a young person looking for a house right now, I would be taking my sweet time, and I would not be spooked by any resumption of bidding wars or any stories about, oh, the Toronto market's super hot again, Hamilton's hot, Vancouver's hot. I would just wait and see what happens. It may be that there's a last gasp of speculative buying and frenzied buying, and then we're going to need to rely on the broader population again. Immigration is down because of the pandemic. We're not recharging the buyer base like we were. A lot of people are not going to have the same employment profile after the pandemic that they did before. They may have lost hours, they may have lost opportunities for raises. I'm hearing now that people working at home may end up getting less pay from their employers because they're not commuting or they're not living in the city anymore. So I think there's a lot of stuff we still have to resolve, and I don't think any of it is really bullish for housing right now. So my vote, take your time.
How accurate is it that home prices will drop? And is there any good news for the first-time buyer?
Well, dropping prices is great news for the first-time home buyer. I mean, let's be honest. I have no way of knowing how much prices will drop, but 5 to 10% doesn't seem out of line. I know CMHC was predicting something along those lines, worst case. Mortgage rates are super low right now. There are variable and fixed 5-year rates at less than 2% right now. It's a phenomenal time to finance the purchase of a house.
Here's a great question. You're going to love this. We can afford to buy now in Toronto, but with a low interest rate. Is a fear that interest rates will skyrocket in 5 years valid?
You know, I remember after the last recession, the big financial crisis, 0809, rates got hammered super low, and everybody, including me, was warning, oh, rates are going to go sky high and you're going to get plastered. Rates are going to normalize, go back to where they were back, let's say, at the beginning of the 2000s. Well, it never happened. Rates a couple of times tried to move higher and it never worked. They always had to come back down low. I think that there isn't going to be a giant rate spike anytime soon, possibly not even the next 5 or 10 years. I wouldn't be worrying about that, but are rates going to be as low as they are now for a long time? I doubt that. I hope not, because higher rates would be a sign of an improving economy. And I think that, 5-year mortgage rates below 2%, that may not last a super long time. 1 year from now, we may not see that anymore. But are you going to be paying a 4 or a 5% mortgage rate in 5 years? I sincerely doubt that. Maybe 3%, 4%.
Mm-hmm. Are you a fan of variable rate mortgages?
I think they, over the last 20 to 30 years, have been a grand slam home run for all you baseball fans in terms of saving money. And everybody sort of formed an opinion that variable rate was the way to go unless you were a scaredy cat, in which case you get 5-year fixed. And the idea was that there was always a big gap between the rate on the variable rate and the rate on the 5-year. In this sort of falling interest rate environment we've been in for so long, a variable rate mortgage lets you participate in rate declines, and there wasn't much risk of rate increases. We hardly saw any of those. So it was always a big win to be in the variable rate. Right now, I'm not sure there's that big of an incentive to go with variable rate, A. B, I don't think variable rate mortgages could decline very much unless we get an economic catastrophe. The Bank of Canada is dead set on lowering interest rates any further. To me, a variable rate mortgage has a few clicks higher to go potentially over the next couple of years. Not dramatic, but a little bit more. Whereas a fixed rate mortgage, you're locked in for 5 years. If I was taking a mortgage right now, I would lock it in for 5 years. And you know what? I'm starting to see some interesting rates for 7 and 10-year mortgages. I think I saw a 10-year mortgage, or was it 7-year? I can't remember, but it was 2.99%. And I'm thinking, 7 to 10 years of I don't have to think for a second about my mortgage and it's 2.99%. I'd give it some thought. I'm not saying go for it. I'm just saying give it some thought. Give some thought to the peace of mind of having not to worry about your mortgage for a decade.